Well, a huge victory for England, for our democracy, for English voters. A disgraceful attempt, a stitch up between Labour and the Tories to delay, postpone, cancel elections across England for the second year in a row has failed. Reform, of course, led the charge, challenging this absolute stitch up. And today we learn that yes, the people of England will be heard after all. It marks the end of a pretty disturbing, dangerous attitude towards democracy that we have seen from Labour and the Tories. And of course, the background here is we're not just talking about this year. We saw this last year. We saw elections across England cancelled at short notice. They then said those elections would take place in 2026. In fact, what happened was, for a second year in a row, and of course the context here is that Reform are regularly gaining seats across the country in local council by-elections, leading the national polls by an absolute country mile. And that is why you saw this pathetic stitch-up with a Labour government and local Conservatives pleading with the government to abandon, cancel elections, in some cases for the second year in a row. Now, what that would have meant is that you can see there 660 councillors would no longer have had to face an election this year. You can see that some councillors will have ended up serving 6-year terms. And you can see there 2.5 million voters face delays for the second year on the spin. Absolutely disgraceful stuff.
So broken is our politics, they've even started cancelling elections. I thought only banana republics cancelled elections. Well, I will be in the High Court on the 19th and 20th of February when we fight the government at judicial review, not just for the elections this year, but to think that in the case of Norfolk, of Suffolk, of East and West Sussex, if this goes ahead, it will be the second year in a row that elections have been cancelled. We go into that court fight with every reason to think that we are going to upstage the establishment and that we are going to win and re-enfranchise 5 million people.
And surprise, surprise, you can see the motivation here. It was because in these areas, Reform clearly were going to be the big winners and Labour were facing annihilation. You can see here, 82% of those in these areas said they wanted these votes to go ahead as scheduled. You know, like in a democracy, it's not supposed to be local councillors that decide when elections go ahead or if they go ahead or not. Just 5% of the public supported the delays. And you can see there, in these areas, Reform ahead with 28%, the Tories second, Labour third. Now you can see analysis there by the Telegraph that Labour would lose control of 6 councils. And I want you to remember, as I've said all the way through this, I want you to remember the attitude of Labour and Conservative politicians towards you, their contempt for democracy, given the Labour argument was that you, in these areas, didn't want these elections to go ahead. This was the disgusting Labour government argument.
And that means moving as quickly as possible to the new streamlined single-tier councils that can make that happen. I've asked councils to tell me we're holding elections this year for positions that will rapidly be abolished, would slow down making these vital reforms that will benefit local people. And I have listened to what councils told me. In December, the Minister for Local Government and Homelessness wrote to 63 councils due to hold elections in May 2026 to hear their views. I have carefully assessed over 350 representations from those councils with elections scheduled in May, and from others who are interested in the outcome. I have carefully considered arguments made about capacity, reorganisation and democracy, and I'm grateful to everyone who took the time to express their views. I can now confirm my decisions to the House. I have decided to bring forward legislation to postpone 29 elections. I have deposited a list of these in the House of Commons library. I have received one further representation this morning that I will consider, then report back to the House on my decision. In all other areas, council elections will go ahead as planned, many having offered no evidence that it would delay reorganisation in their areas. This means of the 136 local elections across England that were scheduled for May, the vast majority will go ahead as planned. In areas where elections are postponed, existing councillors will have their terms extended for a short period.
But Reform challenged this. The stitch-up between the Tories and Labour was challenged by Reform UK. So there was going to be this legal challenge. There was this legal challenge. And you can see there, lawyers acting for reform were going to argue that Labour acted out of political interest to deny so many millions of people their right to vote, and that the claim put forward that it is patently irrational to postpone elections in peacetime, and that it stands in contradiction to the basis of the country, democratic rights, and the basis of individual rights. And now the end result that we've just seen announced, and you know, we shouldn't celebrate too much. After all, this is people just getting to vote, as is their right, as is scheduled, as is meant to go ahead. But what we now see is that the government have had to abandon their attempt to delay, to cancel elections again across England, after being warned by lawyers that it would in fact be illegal. So this was going to be for over 4 million people in around 30 areas of the country were not going to get to vote in the English council elections in May. But now that has been dropped after the government received new legal advice. Reform had launched that legal challenge, that legal action against the government. And you can see here it's understood that the legal advice was in fact related to the Reform UK legal challenge. That's what's been reported. So this all basically completely exposes the Tory and Labour stitch up, that for the second year in a row, they were happy to have a system of democracy where local councillors in some cases who, and had been quoted in the Times for instance, are basically wanting to cancel the elections because they fear Reform will get in, and that would then be unacceptable to the plans that have been cooked up between Labour and the Tories. They deemed that justification to try and delay and stop people in England being able to vote for the second year in a row in some areas. Well, that now has been defeated. A humiliating U-turn for Labour, a humiliating moment for the Tories who pleaded with the Labour government to stop elections from going ahead. And I now suspect Reform is going to perform very, very well in these May elections that are now even more significant, given that in about 30 areas in England where there weren't now going to be elections, they are seemingly going to go ahead. This is brilliant news. Democracy saved in England. And I think there's going to be huge ramifications at the ballot box for Labour and the Tories, and for Reform, who challenged this stitch up to stop people from having their say. Please do let me know your thoughts though on all that in the comments below. Please do whack this video a quick thumbs up, I'd really appreciate it. And of course, as ever, cheers for watching.